Now to a story that you'll only see on 12 News. The records that 12 News has been fighting for finally revealed the one toy that parents are spending millions of tax dollars buying.
For nearly a year, 12 News has fought for access to public records from State Schools Chief Tom Horne and Treasurer Kimberly Yee. Those two now running against each other in the Republican primary for State Superintendent co-manage the state's education voucher program. 12 News took both Yee and Horne to court, and now we're the only media outlet in Arizona to have detailed receipts of what was purchased on your dime.
12 News investigative journalist Craig Harris is joining us now for the very latest in our series, The $1 Billion Education Experiment. Craig?
Good evening, Mark and Caribe. These records reveal millions of purchases in empowerment scholarship accounts since 2022, when the program was open to all Arizona kids. And we'll start with what you could call the building blocks of one ESA controversy: millions spent on Legos. Like ringing the alarm bell, or at least raising a red flag, when you put the pieces together, the picture comes into frame. For the first time, 12 News has access to a majority of school choice receipts, revealing that on just Legos alone, they show parents spent a combined $7.2 million.
I am used to being flabbergasted by the numbers coming out of the ESA voucher program, but $7.2 million on Legos does surprise me. As a taxpayer, I find it really offensive, especially when our public schools can't afford the very basics for instruction.
Beth Lewis, who leads Save Our Schools Arizona, first brought the Lego spending into light back into 2023. At the time, schools chief Tom Horne said in a press release, no ESA parent has been reimbursed $500 to buy Legos. But the department's own records show they certainly have. Just 5 months after Horne took office, his department approved a single purchase for $611 in Legos. A few weeks later, $776 for Legos for the same parent's account. Now the records that Horne's office fought in court to keep hidden, they show that one family has been reimbursed $16,000 just for Legos. Another family almost double that. 22 families spent at least $10,000 each on Legos. Nearly 500 Lego sets cost $500 or more. Among those are 175 Star Wars themed sets.
$30,000 worth of Legos. That's the outlier, but the outliers do raise a question of what kind of policy structures we have in place to ensure that over the course of multiple years, a kid's primary educational materials aren't Legos.
That's Princeton professor Jennifer Jennings, who studies school choice and analyzed the records for 12 News.
So there's a series of Star Wars related Lego sets that constitute the high end of that. But there's also plenty of middle range, $400, $500 sets.
Horne declined an on-camera interview for this story, but his spokesman reminded 12 News that parents are free to buy Legos with their ESA funds. He said Legos are an allowable expense and common in district and charter schools.
When I had Legos for my students, I used them for years and years and years for every single class. And then when I was done with them, I donated them to another teacher. There's no reason to be spending $30,000 for Legos for one child.
The Department of Ed will not answer why they didn't take any action against buyers like these, spending thousands on repeat Lego purchases.
Yeah, I do remember Superintendent Horne calling me a liar. He's called me many names, and I think, folks don't really want to hear the truth, but like your investigation, the truth is going to come out. These are taxpayer dollars.
The state says a typical ESA voucher is $7,000 to $8,000 a year to use on private or home schooling, but students with special needs can receive $40,000 a year. There are now more than 100,000 students using ESAs. 12 News has reported it's helped special needs kids, homeschoolers, and micro schools. This year, the state will spend over $1 billion on the program. Now, Superintendent Horne has also rejected claims that ESA money was spent on Disney parks, personal vacations, and food items. But as we continue to examine the millions of ESA transactions, we found spending on each of those things, and we will continue to share these revelations with you. With photojournalist Chris Latella, I'm Craig Harris, 12 News.
Craig, I have to ask you because it just seems that there are two big issues here. One is that Yee and Horne continue to blatantly lie when asked about this. And two, that for some reason they won't go back to the legislature and say, hey, this piece of legislation is being abused, grossly abused by parents across the valley. Let's fix it so that it works the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah, there's been no move at all. As a matter of fact, Governor Katie Hobbs, for all 4 years that she's been in office, has tried to make changes. The Republican-controlled legislature has rebuffed every effort. And here's the thing. Superintendent Horne's office did an audit of a small amount, well, a pretty large amount, I guess, and found that almost 18,000 parents had misused money. And so I asked the Department of Education, of those 18,000, how many have you shut down? They won't say. So it's a really interesting issue that they don't seem to want to take any accountability or anything to try to stop these parents who continue to keep getting interesting purchases.
And with Yee and Horne both running against each other, neither probably wants to stand up and say the system isn't working the way it was supposed to. There are some problems here. Let's fix it, because they're worried that they would lose in the primary.
Yeah, exactly. They're running against each other in the Republican primary, and they don't want to push it too far because they've already found out that if you do that, the folks like Jake Hoffman, who's a state senator, and Turning Point, they will mobilize and they will vote for probably the candidate who will be openness for anything to happen with the ESA program.
Yeah. All right, Craig, thank you so much for your in-depth reporting.